Playoff football is coming to Happy Valley, and I don't want to hear any of this talk. It's going to be cold. Oh, it's too cold. Don't be a p***. The road to the national championship starts here, and you need to be in Beaver Stadium. Until then, grab your pencil and your paper. It's the obligatory PSU pregame show.
How could you use such language in front of Mike the mailman, Chris? His tender ears.
Mike, I'm sorry.
No problem. You got to be yourself. You have to be yourself.
You do. It's the obligatory PSU pregame show. We're here at the We Are In. Playoff football is indeed coming to Happy Valley, and you do indeed need to be here, whether it's going to be cold or not, and I hope it is. We're going to thank Pat Romano and the We Are In for hosting us all throughout the season. And we're hearing all this talk, guys, about, wow, I don't know, whatever, $2,000, $3,000 hotel rooms. Oh. There are still just a handful, very few as we are taping it here right now. Rooms available at the We Are In. Go to thewearein.com, check and see if any of those places are still available. If you're coming up for the game, which you should, I'm your fake host, Chris Buchanani. I got campus legend Mike the mailman, whose tender ears I did just offend with that cold open. Former Penn State and NFL defensive tackle Brandon Noble, the secretary of the Mount Nittany Conservancy, Kevin Horn.
I did enjoy, Chris, speaking of hotels, that the official fan hotel of SMU is like the Marriott in Harrisburg.
Yeah.
Close as they could get.
It's about what just stay in Allentown, you know? Yeah. So rooms at the We Are In. If you don't want to be in the cold, the Beaver Stadium, or you just don't want to pay for a ticket, watch party here. They're always a good time. Tom Scrap Bradley comes up for these things. Blair Thomas. You get to hang out with Penn State legends, watch Penn State football in one of the Penn Stadiest places on earth. So we're glad to shoot the show here, and we hope you can stay or come watch playoff football here. And you know what? Look, boys, I feel like this is just the beginning. I think we're going to have 4 of these games to talk about. I'm going there.
I'm thinking of 1-0, Chris. I'm not even worried about what comes next. It hasn't even crossed my mind booking tickets to Phoenix at this point.
Already.
It's amazing the attitude. Penn State loses the game. You could never tell that by our attitude today. It's like they lost it, but actually won. Actually lost the game, but looked like they won in the long haul.
It doesn't. I mean, the good and the bad thing now, we've talked about it a few times over the course of the season, is you can lose a game here to, and get into the playoffs. Yep. And that's what college football is now. It's like the NFL. It's like FCS level playoffs, or even Division II. Like Division I FBS football is the only one that does it the way that we've done it for so long. So kind of caught up to everything. And it worked out in our favor right now. I mean, it really did. So we'll take it, right? If you'd have told me, December home game in Happy Valley against a team from Dallas, Texas in December, right? That increases the odds to get to the next one.
Well, leave it to James Franklin, right? You can't get in the 4 team for your whole career, and then finally you would have gotten the 4 team, and now it's 12, right? Of course, that's just our fate.
I've heard that comment a couple of times, but just to start things off, I feel like the unlikely appearance in the Big Ten championship game, proving that you belong on the field with a team like Oregon, but then ending up with the draw Penn State got by losing the game, that's... Dare I say it? Best of all worlds, Mike?
I agree. Everyone's saying that. It's the best draw anyone could have gotten. And we're happy with that.
And we're playing a playoff game in Beaver Stadium, which, again, for me, I'll just say the quiet part out loud. You know what I like about college football is that it's fun.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's fun. Tailgating, for me, I know you don't agree. Watching the Nittany Lions in Beaver Stadium, playoff atmosphere in one of the most iconic locations in the sport. That's fun. To me, it's more fun than watching a bowl game on television. Yeah. So I'll take it.
Well, apparently our fan base doesn't think so, because we're still like 10,000 tickets away from a sellout, Chris. All the other quarterfinal home games have sold out. Notre Dame, Indiana tickets are going for like $1,000. And I know the hotel prices are crazy. I know it's a noon game. I know SMU is not the best, the sexiest team. I know that it's one of the smallest schools in Division I, right? They have 9,000 undergraduates. I get all that. I've heard it all. I thought if we got a home playoff game, we could sell it out if it was on Mars, right? And we're not even close. And I know there's all kinds of tomfoolery with
we
the
couldn't even
student
sell it
tickets.
out in Mars, Pennsylvania, apparently.
Yeah, I don't know. Disappointing to say the least. Hopefully it gets
I thought
better.
Penn State had the best student section in the country. You would think that would fill up quick.
Well, I will say the student section did sell out.
It did?
They cut it down.
They cut it down?
They cut it down by thousands, apparently. I mean, Brandon Noble's own daughter didn't get a ticket to the game.
She did not.
Wow.
Guilt by association.
Definitely.
Random lottery.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow.
But disappointing. Maybe by the time you watch this, it will have sold out. Doesn't look like it's gonna though. There's gonna be big, wide open sections, which is, I don't know, disappointing. But I'll be there. Energy will be high. It'll be fine. I don't know.
Here's my thinking. I don't love that it didn't sell out quickly.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about 107,000 seat stadium versus about 77,000 for Notre Dame. Like that's a huge delta. That's 30,000 extra seats on short notice. I think till all is said and done, they're going to fill the place up. I think that people are going to figure out, many of whom have college degrees, they can put multiple layers of clothing on and still be in white for the whiteout. Like there's been a lot of kvetching about the cold, about, how am I going to find a white jacket? Like necessity is the mother of invention. Okay. Like I have a lot of complaining, a little more complaining than I'd like, but I think at the end of the day, folks are going to figure it out.
And the best part about it is, like you said, losing to Oregon actually helped Penn State out. Our national championship odds went up after that. We are 2-1, 2-1 plus 200 on the sports books right now to make the national championship game because you're favored by 9-10 against this team. And I'm going past 1-0. You're favored by like 11 or 12 against Boise State. And then you just got to get past a pretty good team and whatever comes after that. But man, it is a great draw. Joel Klatt is right. Despite being an asshole, it was a good draw, as best as you could hope for ever. Yep. And it's fun watching all the SEC people complain about Penn State's easy path this year. Look, they're the ones that set it up. Yeah. They're the ones that destroyed conference parity. They're the ones that destroyed the Big 12 and the Pac-12 for their own financial gain. Yep. So live with the consequences. Penn State now gets to beat two former non-Power 5 teams to get to the championship game.
I am enjoying some of the national media talking heads who apparently discovered the way the playoff seeding works last week.
Yes.
Even though it was public 12 months ago. Yeah. I'm pretty sure we talked about it on the Obligatory PSU podcast, which you can get wherever you get your podcasts. The way the tournament is set up, without reseeding from round to round like the NFL does, the 1 seed was going to get boned a little bit.
Yeah.
And the teams that ended up in the 5 and potentially the 6, and it has worked out that way, might have a little bit of an easier path. So if you didn't like the way it was set up, you could have understood that in the abstract if you had 2 brain cells to rub together. And yet, folks who are very well compensated to do nothing else but talk about college football, the Joel Klatts and the Booger McFarlands of the world, I don't think they watch the games. And I don't think they really understand the sport they're paid very well to cover.
Well, it's beyond that, right? You have Nick Saban and the SEC commissioner Stanky saying, well, I guess strength of schedule doesn't matter. We're never going to schedule hard out-of-conference opponents anymore. Alabama's best non-conference opponent was 5-7 Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Right? Give me a break. Like, you don't schedule hard out-of-conference opponents anyway.
The best comment I saw online was some SEC fan said SMU would be at best a 500 team in the SEC. And someone replied, oh, that means they beat Alabama 24-3.
And by the way, you're not offending us. Penn State knows the only really good team it beat was Illinois and then a bunch of nonsense. We know that, right? But we're seated correctly. We are. I mean, that's just how the system works. We got really lucky with the schedule this year. Really fortunate. And to his credit, they won 11 games. So be it. That's where it ends up.
So that means, guys, that there is a little bit of a window of opportunity feel to where we are at right now. Because I've talked about it before on the show. This is probably the last rodeo for the majority of the 2022 recruiting class. I mean, maybe a possibility in the NIL age that some of these guys come back. But I think in all likelihood, the top talent is off to the NFL. Like Abdul Carter's going to be a top 5 pick, probably. So the superstars of that superstar class, you get them until this ride's over and then they're gone. And here you are. You're starting the journey in Beaver Stadium. You have this path charted out for you. And based on the way they played in the Big Ten championship game, Mike, I feel like it's coming together and this team's peaking at the right time.
Yeah, who to believe they'd have over 500 yards total offense, 2 running backs getting 100 yards and score 37 points and still lose. I'm amazed at that. Maybe Brandon Noble should be the new defensive coordinator.
No, easy, Mike, easy. Absolutely. No, look, it was. I think the Oregon loss, though,
it was close.
Does show you that we have the ability to play, and I don't like even saying it, but we can play with teams like that, right? Yeah. And I think it does give you some confidence going into the next couple games, because they got into a track meet, and that was one thing that coming into this season, how good was the offense going to be? Were they going to be able to score points? Was Aller going to be able to push the ball downfield? Yeah. Maybe still can't push the ball downfield unless they're throwing it to Tyler Warren. But at the end of the day, they found a way to be explosive. Yeah. And Kotelnicki's done that, right? That's him. And so I think that all those things being said, we're in a good spot, right? Defensively, I think we need to be better. Yeah. You know, I think that early on, I looked at the team and I said, defensively, we look really strong. Wasn't sure about what the offense was going to be, but I think it's kind of turned over right now, right? Where I'm very comfortable that we can score points. Yeah. But like you said, Mike, anytime you score, to me, if you score over 30 points, you should win a football game. Yeah. Right? Like that should just be bare minimum, right? You score over 30, you should win a football game. But they are close, and they peaked, and they got a couple of potential lesser opponents over the next couple of weeks. So who knows?
Yeah, what a shocking game. And no one predicted that it would be a track meet like that. It's over 70, almost 80 points. Like that was so shocking, right? And Katron Allen looked like he couldn't play football for the last 6 weeks. He goes out there and has a career game. Nick Dawkins, Nolan Rucci on the offensive line had the best games in their Penn State career so far, and they saved it for a great moment like that. And, you know, the defense got exposed for what it was. We all knew the linebackers sucked this year. We just did. Yep. And they game planned for that, and you saw what happened. They have one of the best quarterbacks and best wide receivers in college football, and that's just the way it goes. I really hope we somehow avoid them again in the playoffs. Like, I don't know. I mean, Oregon's very good. They've been vulnerable, and hope maybe someone with a little bit of better, you know, interior defense can pick them off here. But I don't want to play that game again for sure.
Right. Up until that last interception, I really thought Penn State was still going to win the game.
Well, of course you did.
Because they were moving the ball. They moved the ball. That's the first year I can remember the offense moving as well as they have. They've really done a great job. Really have.
And some of that, Nobes, is just you can even play a sound game defensively. And for sure, Oregon was built to exploit where Penn State is weak,
definitely.
On an indoor fast track in a dome like that. But sometimes when the quarterback is just on, there's not too much you can do. This game in the Big Ten Championship reminded me a lot of the Rose Bowl against USC after the 2016 season, where there was a play where Sam Darnold was getting swarmed by 3 guys, and he basically just chopped the ball up into the air. And it dropped down into the hands of the receiver for a first down. And I said, you know what? God picked a winner today. It ain't us.
You know, it feels a little different, though, right? The last couple of big losses like that in the line. Maybe it's just rosy-colored glasses from the last 3 years because they've been so successful. But for the years before that with James Franklin, it just felt like we were losing games because of his mismanagement, right? Just whatever the right move with the clock was or timeouts was, he would do the opposite of that, right? We didn't lose Oregon because of Franklin and mismanagement. We lost because they were better. Same with Ohio State. The big, depressing, demoralizing losses in recent years have been different than all of the losses in the previous 7 years. Yeah. And that at least the clock management is much better. Like how many times we were up against Ohio State by double digits in the fourth quarter, and Sean Clifford's up there like running like we're running hurry up offense like with 30 seconds play clock. We're not doing that anymore. We're playing the game correctly. Yeah. It's being coached correctly. Yep. And so it feels a little bit better, like being like, wow, we just got beat. They're really good.
Yeah. And in fairness, allow me to point out that, in fact, coaching decisions are probably responsible for the wins that got Penn State into this position, especially at Minnesota. And so I think on that note, we'll cut to a break because we got to get Mike the Mailman's Trends to Treasure in here. Yep. And on the other side, before we talk about Penn State hosting SMU for college football playoff game in Beaver Stadium, which is awesome, and you need to be there, and the cold is not a factor.
It's $100. $100.
For God's sake.
Pay the ticket.
People. Before we go to that game, I just want to pause and reflect and appreciate on what has been a really cool, really fun season of Penn State football. Oh, yeah. So we'll do that right after Trends to Treasure, which is coming up right now.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Trends to Treasure. Last week, we went 2 wins, 1 loss, and 1 push. So the last 3 weeks, we were 9 wins and 2 losses and 1 push. That's a very good trend. Let's hope that trend continues. Now, for this week's trends, we have Cincinnati versus Cleveland. Cincinnati is 14-5 in the last 19 games. So the play here is the Cincinnati Bengals. Next up, we have Arizona at Carolina. Arizona is 1-6 in the last 7 games. 1-4 in the last 5 away games. So the play here is the Carolina Panthers. Next up, we have Indianapolis at Tennessee. Indianapolis is 2-5 in the last 7 games, 1-4 in the last 5 away games. The play here is the Tennessee Titans. Our last trend this week, we have Chicago versus Detroit. Chicago is 5-2 in the last 7 games. So the play here is the Chicago Bears. And that's it for this week's Trends to Treasure. Remember, bet with your head and not with your heart.
Mike.
What?
Mike. The Bears stink.
I know. This is the trend. This is the trend. So, this is the trend. I know what you think about the Bears and the actual Lions having a good year, but this is a trend. You remember, bet with your head and not with your heart. Go get them.
This segment of Obligatory is brought to you by Concierge Medical Associates. Whether you're a weekend warrior or elite level athlete, let Dr. Stephen Murphy and his board-certified sports medicine specialists keep you at the top of your game. Schedule an in-person or remote consultation at conciergemedical.ai. Excellent work.
Thank you. We're doing well.
I am just so happy to be here talking about Penn State hosting a home playoff game. And so, it's the Obligatory PSU Pregame show. We're at the We Are In. A reminder, if you're coming up for the game, which you should, and you're looking for a place to stay that doesn't cost $7,000, thewearein.com. Check and see. There might be a few rooms available. We'd love to have you here. Great watch party if you're not going to go to Beaver Stadium, which, again, you should. And before we talk about this game in the next segment, guys, I did just want to appreciate the regular season Penn State just had. I talked about in the last segment and really throughout the year, James growing a little bit as a head coach. I know the guy gets a lot of flack in the fan base. Trust me, I know. I hear about it here all the time. And I know he gets it on this show sometimes. But I also try to remind myself that he was in his early 40s when he took the job. And it would be unreasonable and stupid, frankly, to assume that he's not going to get better at it over the course of a decade. And if you go through the list of the things that, you and I have been pretty tough on him about over the years, Kim, clock management, in-game situations, bad out of the bye week, can't get to 11 wins in the regular season, hasn't gotten that win versus Ohio State yet, still got the big game James thing to tackle, but he's got a shot now. I think among the many great things about this year is we've seen the head coach cross off some of the criticisms that people have had about him, legitimate ones.
Yeah, he's still annoying as hell, right? This is a JV setup, if you will. No, I'm kidding. No, and he's, the sundial in front of Old Main, the quote on the sundial is, grow old along with me, the best is yet to be.
Yes.
It's kind of like James, right? Like, we've grown up together. I spent most of my 20s and my early 30s with this man, and God willing, a whole lot more. And, we have our moments, but credit where credit's due. I
can't wait to crop out that clip the next time somebody gets on you online for how much you hate James Franklin.
And I don't.
Want him fired.
Well, maybe I do sometimes, but I'm glad he's our coach.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm overjoyed he's our coach. Look what's happening around the game.
Right.
It's complicated, right? Yeah. It's a complicated relationship, but one that we should really appreciate. Right, really appreciate the stability of it all.
Yeah.
And winning 11 games. Now, Penn State is one of the only programs, 7 decades in a row. We've won 11 games in every one of those decades. And he's been a part of damn near 2 of them.
Yeah. He's a lot of talk right now about Bill Belichick, right? Going into college football and getting back into the game. And they started talking this week about kind of these older coaches, the Mike Tomlins, the guys that have been around a long time, right? And how they seem to know when to make the right decisions, whether it's clock management, go for it on 4th down, those kinds of things, because they've just seen it all, right? And James has been here for a long time now, and he has gotten better as a coach. And I think he's got a good staff around him too. I think he's got a group of guys around him where everybody's on the same page. I think there's a lot of football knowledge on that staff beyond developing players and recruiting. There's a lot of guys that have spent a lot of time at high levels of this game. And so I think all those things together put you in a position to be successful. And look, there are times where you go, man, like, just be quiet, right? You know what I mean? If you just don't say that right there, everybody's fine. But it's okay, right?
There were like 2 of them at least this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you just go, all right, but to your point, right? 10 wins, a lot. Right? I say it all the time. Mike always says we're going to go undefeated, but 10 wins at any level of football is hard to do. Yep. It's hard to do. And he's done it consistently. So, and look, since the infamous, was it the 2020 team that everybody wanted to hate, that everybody hated?
2021 was bad.
2020, yeah, like where you couldn't stand the guys and the way that they kind of approached things. The teams have been great. Like I've enjoyed watching the players play. Right? I've enjoyed listening to them, watching them kind of grow, and it's been fun. It has been fun this year.
Yeah, I just take away. I just ignore all the negativity a lot of fans have because they see it their way. They're not at the practices where James is. They're not on all these meetings. He's done a great job. I mean, he really has, and I think he's going to continue to do so. So we're with him.
Here's the reality. He could retire or be fired tomorrow. He's going into the College Football Hall of Fame with the Penn State logo on his shirt, right? That's just the reality of the situation. Whether he wins it all or not, like that is, he's the guy. Like that's just how it is.
Can I just point out that Mike is maybe having his most understated, obnoxiously arrogant season of this show? Like the guy who picks to win the national championship every single year, who is Mr. Positivity. Like he has been just right now.
Should we win the national championship?
Little elbows in the ribs to all the negative fans. Yeah.
Well, he's a clown, right? Chris, you and I both predicted, or maybe it was just me, we predicted they'd lose 3 games.
3 games.
Mike predicted 0. They lost 2. We're closer than Mike. So what are we even talking about here?
Let me share this with you. The reason I predicted that, because I know when they lose, I'm like your therapist. You look to me like, see, we told you, Mike, it's going to be worse than that. And so I feel that I'm helping both of you guys.
It has been a pleasure over 9 years to use campus icon Mike the Mailman as our personal whipping boy. Yeah. Like, that's true. That's true. I've enjoyed that.
Thank you.
I say this all the time. I caught some flack from the Wisconsin fans in the comments section of our Wisconsin episode. You see how things went for the Badgers? I say stick with your identity as a college football program. You just have to be who you are. Yep. It's unlike any other sport in that your history tangibly impacts what you can do in the present because it's so brand driven.
Yeah.
Right? Like for all the people who complained about how Penn State or Notre Dame or whoever got seated where they are, they did because of their brand. Any other team in the country isn't even in the conversation to make the playoffs if they don't have Alabama's brand.
Right. That's very true.
And Penn State's brand is stability. We don't get rid of people.
Right.
Around here. Get the same mailman for 40 freaking years, for example. So through good and bad, I think that's been a real benefit. But look, I'm not here to be James Franklin's PR arm or carry water for him.
The rest of the media will do that for you. Don't worry.
Yeah, well, there are also plenty of outlets and opportunities to find the criticisms of them. I'm trying to just call balls and strikes. But I do want to talk about some other things that were great about this season. I've got a couple of things in mind, but I think the next thing we just got to mention is the transcendent performance of a guy who stuck around, paid his dues, and really embodies everything we love about Penn State football, and that's Tyler Warren.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You look at the records that he broke, you look at the way he did it, you look at his character and how important he was to an offense that struggled to find other reliable options in the passing game. We're going to look back just like we did with, Saquon Barkley or Paul Posluszny, who just went into the College Football Hall of Fame, and say, man, I really enjoyed watching that guy play football.
Yeah, great dude too, right? And he was on Good and Ironhead the other day, and they were asking him, do you have another year eligibility? He's like, I thought I had another year, but they told me I didn't. And he was disappointed about it. The guy's about to be a multimillionaire, first-round pick.
Awesome.
Right, and I'm not saying he would have came back, but we would have had a shot if he had another year. He was legitimately disappointed he couldn't come back next year, and I believed him when he said it.
One of the best things I think about him, he always, after a touchdown or after just a regular catch, he'll hand the referee the ball.
There he is.
The best thing. That's the way football should be played.
Exactly. Well, he plays the game the way you're supposed to play.
Yeah, he does. No question.
Right, and beyond that, right? The Mike the Mailman kind of platitudes there, but like he plays very, very hard.
He does.
And he does everything that he's supposed to do and more, right? They have asked him to do so much this year because of the struggles at other position groups, right? And the lack of a big play receiver. Like your tight end is your big play weapon, right? I mean, look, I played with Kyle Brady, and that's not how Kyle was used, right? Kyle was an extra tackle, right? And then they threw him the ball every once in a while. But we had Bobby Ingram, Freddie Scott, Joe Jurevicius, different weapons, different times.
I don't have that. I'll tell you.
Right?
That.
No, absolutely. And so I think what's been really impressive about the way that Tyler's played this year is he's done a little bit of everything, literally, but he has the ability to make the big play, and the tight end is an easy position to take away from an offense, right? Because of where they align. So I think a lot of what Kotelnicki's done has been really good too. I think that the combination of the two of them has been great and has made for a great season for Tyler, which means he's going to make a lot of money, which is awesome. And it'll be interesting to see because they don't use tight ends like that in the NFL, right? So, what happens and who cares, right? He's going to go play football and make a lot of money. But like what they've done with him here has said a lot about the coaching staff and how they've been very creative using their tight end as a weapon in multitude of ways, but also just his ability to do everything, literally everything on a football field.
And not for nothing, this was a year we came into with 3 new coordinators.
Yeah.
And you talk about stability and the advantage it gives you as a program. I think by and large, we can look at all 3 of the additions James Franklin made in the offseason. You talk about being able to hire and bring in good talent, Andy Kotelnicki, Tom Allen, Justin Lustig. All of those guys worked out.
Yes.
Yes.
At once. Right. It's been, you've had times where you get like, Manny Diaz did a great job, right? But what's that guy's name? The terrible Jurkovic or whatever his name is.
Mike Yurcich.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Like he was horrible, right? But you had one and not the other, right? You know what I mean? But he's got it all right now. Yeah. And the other thing too is I think that, the coordinator thing, we're going to lose one of these guys again too, right? Kotelnicki was up for the West Virginia job. Tom Allen will be up for a job again. Like those guys are going to go. But I think one of the really cool things about the staff is James has been able to keep the position coaches. Right.
No small thing.
And it isn't. Because a lot of times when a coordinator will leave, he'll at least try and poach 1 or 2 of them, right? And every once in a while it does. You saw like Ricky Ronnie took a couple of the guys that were like analysts or younger guys.
Sure.
And that's one thing. But to keep like guys like Terry Smith around for as long as James, and Terry's a Penn Stater, right? He's obviously super happy here. I coached with him at Temple. There's no place he'd rather be than here. But keeping guys like that around are huge, right? So you lose your coordinators, but the stability, the actual foundation of the program is your position coaches. And we haven't really had a lot of rollover there.
What really made me trust the guy a lot more than I did previously to this was there's a lot of guys that played here that are in that room that are killing it. Deion Barnes, Dan Connor. Yep. You mentioned Terry Smith.
Yep.
You got Alan Zamitis, who was on the show doing the recruiting, essentially. I'm missing one. I'm missing a big one. I said Ty Howe. Ty Howe. Been fantastic, right? So it's cool seeing those guys that I watched play here when I was a kid, succeed now.
Yep.
It's been awesome to watch. Michael Mowdy's here doing God knows what. It doesn't matter what he's doing as long as he's in the building.
Tours of the building. That's exactly right.
Yeah, something like that. So really impressive stuff. And they are keeping them all. I mean, and it seems like the core is going to stay together next year too, because I don't think Kotelnicki's taking a job.
I don't think so.
Tom Allen's not taking another job at this point. We might move on to Marcus Higgins. We'll see. That's been a disaster, but a 2-year disaster. No one's made more money than Tyler Warren on Marcus Higgins being horrible. Anyway, I can't be positive the whole show, Chris.
No. You've held it together well. Honestly, you've done a commendable job.
Anyway, I've done my best.
So, look, we're feeling good. It's the holiday season. We've got the playoffs coming to Happy Valley. We're going to end this segment on a positive note. We're cutting you down to size today, Mike the Mailman.
Yeah, it's okay.
But I am curious, for somebody who clearly is unaffected by the losses, just always happy, never had a bad day.
That's right.
Other than the opportunity to be low-key, insufferably obnoxious all season long, what are you going to remember from the 2024 regular season?
Just being with you guys.
I knew you were going to say that.
Having fun with you guys. It's fun. It's a good time.
I was like, I'm going to lob him a softball, and he's going to watch it cross the plate. He's going to leave the bat on his shoulder.
I love doing this. It's fun. It's a good time. Football is nice, but I think it's more fun than football, this stuff, what we do.
You are the absolute worst. You know that, don't you? We'll be right back.
Tim and Steve here from the Let's Talk Penn State podcast with a couple fun facts about SMU. Cue the fight song.
Let's start with some alumni. We've got Kathy Bates, Brian Bumgardner from The Office, former First Lady Laura Bush, and Ned Ryerson from Groundhog Day, Stephen Tobolowsky.
Here's a fact for you. Did you know SMU has a live mascot called Haruna, which is a Shetland pony? And don't mess with him either. Back in 1934, Haruna hit the Fordham Ram so hard that it died, making it the only known mascot-on-mascot killing.
Now, you're safe from the Shetland pony in Happy Valley because, sadly, the pony is not coming. Some PETA issues. I don't know. Buttons. There's no button this week. Citizens Bank didn't make one. Last time we played SMU, it was Shoe the Mustangs. We would advocate for Mustang Silly.
So silly. SMU Stadium, by the way, named Gerald Ford Field, but not that Gerald Ford. He went to Michigan. It's for a different guy.
Tim, what do you think of the fight song? Good enough?
It's good enough.
It's okay, but not good enough for a win. Go State.
Random Number Generator is brought to you by the good folks at Anti-Fragile Brewing Company. Anti-Fragile is the official beer supplier fueling the obligatory pregame show. Anti-Fragile brews incredible beer we all enjoy and recommend. And check out their Moody Culture Kombucha and fill up on Uncle John's cheesesteaks. Check them out when you're in Happy Valley at 324 East Calder Way or anytime at antifragilebrew.com. Okay, let's talk about SMU. It's the obligatory PSU pregame show at the We Are In. A reminder to check out their website. It's on the screen. It's thewearein.com. Maybe some rooms available. Much more affordable option. Not too far from Beaver Stadium if you want to come in for this game, which you absolutely should. Once again, folks, it's not complicated. Get some thermals, get a long sleeve shirt, get a nice thick hoodie, and layer up. For Christ's sake, I don't understand why this is so complicated to some people.
Couldn't be any colder than the Maryland game. Maryland, I thought was really cold.
100%. 100%. It's probably going to be warmer than the Maryland game. That was a 3:30 kick, so I don't want to hear it. Anyway, okay, we're done with that. We're moving on.
SMU, don't they have a live mascot?
They do. They do. There's like a little. It's a horse.
It's a horse.
I think it's. I don't know if it's like
it's a pony.
Is it an actual pony or just one of those small horses?
Small horse.
What's the difference?
Well, a pony is going to grow into a horse. A little horse is just a little horse.
What's that little shit's name for
Peruna.
Peruna's coming.
Yeah.
I only know this because SMU tweeted that Peruna is on the trip, and then PETA was shaming them for it.
It sounds like an Italian beer.
I can't recall. I mean, I've been going. My home streak goes back to 2005. I have not seen a live mascot in Beaver Stadium.
Yeah,
never happened.
Nice. That's cool.
Peruna is coming, from what I understand.
As it should.
I hope it freezes his ass off and dies.
Yeah. I wonder if you can milk Peruna.
We,
back in the day, we did that segment where we milked the horse.
Right. Oh, no.
You guys are good. Kevin, you were good at that.
You skipped it, though. You're afraid of horses.
I had something wrong with me that day.
No, you didn't. I'm convinced you lied about that. Okay, so SMU, not a lot of history between Penn State and the Mustangs. Only faced them twice, 1-0-1. Although famously, that tie, probably one of the more significant historical games in Penn State program history.
Sure, 1948 Cotton Bowl. We play all, we play none while we triplet. That was one of, if not the most important game in Penn State history, one of them. Right, just that story and that team really. Is that the last time we played them?
No, we played them in the 70s.
Okay.
But of course, also a little bit of history between the programs in that SMU back in the Pony Express slash Pony Excess, Great 30 for 30. Check that out. I think it's on like Disney Plus or something. It's one of my favorites. About the, all the cash they were pumping into that program illegally back in the day. 82, they go 11-0-1. And folks down in Dallas felt like they deserved a share in the national championship, which they did not get when Penn State won it all.
Yeah. Sure. At least there's one team in town worthy of having NCAA sanctions. Historically.
Cheers. Cheers to that, my friend. All right, guys. So as we discussed at the top of the show, probably the way things shake out for the Nittany Lions, it's a more favorable draw than playing the winner of Ohio State, Tennessee.
Absolutely.
Certainly. I mean, look, it's a 12-team playoff for the national championship. They aren't going to be like MAC and FCS opponents. All these games are going to be challenging. All the teams are going to be good. You go around the country and just objectively, you ask anyone, would you rather have SMU at home or the winner of Tennessee Ohio State at a neutral site as your first game, I think people are going to probably end up picking the Mustangs.
Sure.
And so they're coming into what should be a very hostile environment, probably pretty cold. You played in Dallas. It gets cold there sometimes.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it does. You get kind of a wind that basically comes down the plains, right? And nothing stops it from the Arctic Circle, right? It just comes straight down. And it gets very cold. There's no mountain There's no trees anywhere between there and Canada. And look, SMU's an interesting place. I spent 4 years in Dallas. There's a Greenville Ave, which is this kind of famous street with bars and restaurants and stuff. Is right off the campus.
Okay.
I actually coached there one time when I was at Temple. We went down and played at SMU. It's a cool, if you're a football historian, you're a football, like that like the Pony Express, right? Dickerson, right? Craig James, that was a huge part of football in the 80s, right? They were very, very good. They've fallen off. It's a place where for probably quite a few years until they just kind of got it going, no one really cared. Like when we went and played there, we was Temple going to play SMU.
Right.
Like you talk about no one coming to the game, right? Like it was empty. It was absolutely empty. But they've got it going. Look, their quarterback, Kevin Jennings, he's a guy that, he can throw the ball around the yard. He's a very much he's going to try and make plays, right? And not necessarily run. He can move, right? But like he's going to keep his eyes downfield, try and push the ball down there. Throws picks. They're a little sloppy. I don't know. It's a great draw, right? But it's not a team that you just go up and show and Mike's knocking things over here. And
what are you doing?
Sorry.
You're not just going to show up and win, right? Like that's the important thing here. And I'm not saying they're going to do this because of 1-0, right? But like this is a team that has nothing to lose, right? They're going to come in here and be like, hey, we're bringing our pony. Right, no one expects us to win, and they're going to get after it, right? And so I think the important thing is for Penn State, kind of like we've been joking around up here, is like you kind of see a very easy path to that third game, right? And you got to make sure that you handle the success that you've had this year and go out there and absolutely slap the dog shit out of SMU, right, immediately. Right, and let them know, hey, look, it's cold, it's miserable. You don't want to tackle anybody. Yeah. You don't want to be tackled. You don't want to catch the football. You don't want to do anything. Right, you don't want to play football today. Take your pony and go home.
Yeah, just like it had to start with Maryland last couple of weeks ago. Maryland started off with a touchdown pass just like that. They can't start that way.
No, absolutely. And I think even if they do, Penn State still wins the game. Okay. I believe that we're just a better football team. Okay. But at the end of the day, you don't want to be in a position to where you even think about it. Right? You want to win that football game. Because look, again, they're looking ahead because we can do that. If you have to play Boise, right? Boise has a legitimate offense, a real threat at tailback that when you look at what happened against Oregon, right, you go like, I don't really know how much I want to see that. Yeah. Right? Like that's going to be a hard football game to win, right? Whereas this one you kind of go, this is winnable. So from a player's perspective, you got to make sure you get past that, right? And you handle your business.
Yeah, believe it or not, we're actually favored more against Boise State than we are SMU. Probably, neutral site SMU's probably got an edge on us, but because the Beaver Stadium gives us a little bit of juice. You said you had nothing to lose. Actually, they have a lot to lose because the only reason they have a team that they can put on the field is because they have millions and millions of dollars of oil money that someone gave them to field a roster. This is a Portal Princess team, right? 19 of 22 starters, by my calculation, came from the transfer portal. Yep. They don't give a shit about SMU. They don't care about
absolutely.
That school. They didn't sign up to go play in 20-degree weather at Beaver Stadium in December. They signed up to get their six-figure money and maybe go to the NFL. They don't care about any of this. So they're a very soft. ACC's soft in general. Because they're a bunch of portal princesses, they're even softer than usual on defense.
SMU's got like 12 alumni, but 4 of them are billionaires.
Yes.
So
that's right.
They can just bankroll the team. It is interesting. SMU really is a team that embodies everything about the current era of college football. They were a group of 5 team that functionally bought their way into the, quote, Power Four.
Right.
Because they just, again, going back to all the money available in their booster base, they relinquished any TV money for practically a decade just to be able to play in the ACC. And then they played their way into the ACC title game, did just enough in losing to a 3-loss Clemson to get themselves into the tournament with a team that they bought through the transfer portal. So this is like kind of, it is maybe in some ways a twisted analog to the '86 Fiesta Bowl, where you had good versus evil, like the camo fatigues of the Miami Bad Boys versus St. Joe, and the very buttoned down blue and white Nittany Lions. This is like the old school Penn State team, which is by and large homegrown talent. Versus the conference skipping, roster buying, formerly death penalty cheating SMU Mustangs.
I love it.
Kind of like that.
They asked Coach Franklin about the portals opening up. He's like, we'll get like 6 guys. I don't know. We're going to keep the guys we have and maybe go after a handful of guys. We maybe get 6. 19 to 21 starters or 22 starters are portal guys. To their credit, Kevin Jennings, their quarterback, is actually homegrown. He started the year as their backup. This Preston Stone cat played the first few games. He's now in the transfer portal, but staying for the year. Again, probably not giving his NIL money back for the transfer. But anyway, he lost against BYU, and then they immediately we're benched. We're going to start Kevin Jennings. And Jennings has been okay. He's a turnover machine, right? Yeah. Between interceptions and fumbles, he averages more than a turnover a game.
That's good.
So he's not bad. Again, he is very quick, but I trust our defense against him way more than I did against Oregon's quarterback and many of the quarterbacks we faced.
Yeah, you can't understate the delta in talent and especially speed, but really skill as a football player. That's what I said about Oregon's receiving corps. Those guys are not track stars. They're football players.
Right.
They were complete players who also happened to be very fast and very polished. And Dylan Gabriel was on one against us in the Big Ten championship game. SMU does not have the talent at the line of scrimmage that the Ducks did. They don't have the talent at quarterback. They don't have the talent at receiver. Our pass rush has been peaking the last few weeks. It's just they went up against a team that's number 1 in the country and undefeated for a reason. I think at home versus SMU, and then when you start looking at not just top-line talent, but depth, Penn State has a very significant advantage in this one, not to mention the fact that they're going to have a raucous whiteout crowd at their backs. So let's randomly generate numbers, guys. And I'm going to start with you, Mr. Obnoxious, Arrogant Positivity. Give it to us.
I like Penn State in this game, believe it or not. I like them by 2 touchdowns, 14 points. We'll make it 14 points. I like you said, overall the talent, Penn State has much more talent, and I think it's going to show.
Now let me ask you this.
Sure.
You're confident right now and remain confident and unfazed throughout the whole game.
Right.
Because you're Mike the Mailman.
Yeah.
For the rest of us, for those like Kevin and myself who live on the edge of our padded Beaver Stadium seats, in what quarter can we relax in this one? Your prediction?
I would think 3 minutes into the third quarter.
3 minutes?
All right.
Yeah, 3 minutes.
I'm going to remember that. You heard it here first,
okay,
folks. Kevin Horn randomly generate numbers.
Well, Chris, I'd feel a lot better about this game if they were 11 and not 10. Right? Because they're 10, that means the universe will not allow us to win this game. It's just decided already. James Franklin has never won a top 10 matchup where a national championship is on the line, right? Let's go over the 3 top 10 wins he has in his whole career. Lost 19, won 3. He beat Wisconsin and Ohio State in 2016 after the team already had 2 losses and was out of the national championship picture. And then he beat Utah's backup quarterback in the Rose Bowl. He has never beaten a top 10 team when a national championship is on the line. And SMU's a top 10 team. Yes, we have more talent, right? Their best player is Brayshawn Smith, is a running back, and he runs for about 6 yards a carry. Again, I'm not worried about our defense in this game. I think they've been playing these soft ACC teams. They've been on the ropes against like Duke and even Boston College, and they lost to BYU. I think it's pretty bad, honestly, despite ending season ranked. They play Clemson pretty well, and Clemson is always Clemson. So yeah, we're better on both sides of the ball. Their one strength as a team is, I think, defensive line. Like they're one of the best rush defenses in the country. Again, the schedule has dictated that potentially. So who knows? Kaytron Allen and Nick Singleton can carve them up. But to this point, that's their strength of their team is the rush defense. No matter, I don't think they have an answer for Tyler Warren. I really don't. So you're asking me a number generator. I think Penn State wins the game, but I'm picking SMU 27-24. Because I will not pick James Franklin to win a top 10 game until he does it. And I swear, you can hold me accountable. If he does it, if he finally beats a top 10 opponent when it matters, I will pick him to beat Boise State by 2 touchdowns. But for now, I'm not doing it, and I promised I wouldn't do it, and I'm not going to do it until he does it. Because it's not about the talent on the field, it's the fate of the universe. And that's how it goes.
I like it.
Wow.
I don't even know how to follow that. I shouldn't
I'm going to let you go last. No, you're okay. You're okay. I am practically speechless, and I do have to follow it, and apparently make a new motion graphic also.
But again, it makes sense, Chris, right? I think Penn State will win, but I'm not going to pick them to win. Like, you understand that. You've followed this team.
There is no bigger believer on this planet than the reverse jinx than me. So yes. Yeah. Okay.
I'm not even doing
it.
Right. I mean, I legitimately am not going to pick them to win because he can't do it, but I think they'll win. It makes sense if you understand.
I do. I get it. Which makes me think I've probably been doing this show with you people for
too long.
I'm going to randomly generate numbers. Look, playoff football in Happy Valley, in Beaver Stadium, and I'm going to go back to what I said before the West Virginia game to start the season, and that is in college football, talent will out. I really believe the key differentiator for the run Penn State has been on. You go all the way back to when this 2022 class stepped on campus and they won the Rose Bowl in the freshman year for guys like Nick Singleton and Katron Allen and Abdul Carter. It's that James Franklin and his staff have been able to build the depth they did not have back in 2016 and 17 and 18. And those teams lost games that they shouldn't have to knock themselves out of playoff contention. So when I look at top-line talent and depth, and I look at SMU going on the road and the Nittany Lions playing at home in front of a sold-out Beaver Stadium full of people who learned how to layer their clothing like grown-ups and are wearing white, I think it's a comfortable win for Penn State. I've got the Nittany Lions in this one 31-24, but the final score for the Mustangs is late, and the win has already been sealed for Penn State. They're moving on to the Fiesta Bowl, their postseason. Home away from home. Brandon Noble, take us out.
48-21, Penn State. I don't know, it's randomly generated numbers.
48?
Yeah, why not? They're better than SMU.
I do think the offense is rolling.
And it's good, and the offense is playing well. Yeah. You know, if the weather is in our favor, right? If it's Pennsylvania December weather, absolutely.
Give me the same roster. SMU ranked 11. I'm picking their score, but they're ranked 10, so I just can't do it.
I unfortunately
arbitrarily they're picked 10. I can't do it.
I completely understand. After doing this show for as long as I have, I completely understand where he's coming from.
This is actually like right to left. It is like a linear spectrum, practically. That's impressive.
You have a padded seat at Beaver Stadium? I never knew that.
Yeah, I don't pay for that shit.
Listen. Before we go, let me just talk about this for a moment. It's not about comfort. It's not about keeping your butt warm. It is about the placeholder function of the pad.
The space.
Yes.
It defines the space.
Exactly. Okay. Those are my square inches, and you can't infringe because that pad is there. It's worth the $100.
Good to know
for sure over the course of the regular season. And Mike, I got to tell you, I hate to admit this to you, but I got to be honest with the audience, so I got to be honest with you, even though I don't like you, as you know. I am kind of feeling like Mike the Mailman right now.
Good.
I like what I saw from this football team all season long. Yeah. I like that they learned from the mistakes that they made against Ohio State. I think the same thing happens after this Oregon loss in the Big Ten championship game. So this is our first playoff show here on the obligatory PSU pregame show. First in 9 years. I'm going to come out and say it. I think it is the first of 4.
Cool.
And the first step starts in Beaver Stadium. Be there, wear white, be warm, and stay at the We Are In if you're coming into town. Until we talk to you next, and I hope it'll be next week, take care of yourselves and each other. Happy holidays. Beat SMU. We are.
And don't forget, go to Anti-Fragile on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then when you get diabetes, go to Dr. Murphy.